Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Game Changer. I'm Maryam Zia. The diplomatic environment of the world is ever changing and we see new alliances emerging every day. And when we talk about recent years, another important alliance that is emerging on the world stage is the ever-evolving relationship between Pakistan and Russia. And recently, both countries celebrated 75 years of establishment of the diplomatic relationship. And in this regard, the Foreign Minister of Russia, Mr. Sergei Lavrov, sent a congratulatory message to the Pakistani nation. What did he say? Let's hear.
Has always been interested in expanding cooperation with Pakistan and under no circumstances has abandoned its commitments. Nowadays, our relations are advanced and based on trust. They have founded on the concurrence of proximity of approaches to the key issues of the international agenda. Together with our Pakistani partners, we stand for shaping a more just and democratic multipolar world order. We respect the cultural and civilizational diversity of peoples and their right to determine the avenues of their political, social and economic development themselves. I would like to note that Russia's vision of traditional moral values is in harmony with the principles of faith, unity and discipline formulated by the father of the Pakistani people, Muhammad Ali Jinnah. It is on these pillars that the statehood of modern Pakistan is based. We attach great importance to further constructive cooperation with your country in international fora. We highly appreciate Pakistan's contribution to the activities of the United Nations and its specialized agencies. We welcome Islamabad's active involvement in joint work within the Shanghai Cooperation Organization as a full member of this organization, which plays an important role in establishing multilateral cooperation in Greater Eurasia. We consider the Islamic Republic of Pakistan to be a key international partner in the joint effort to combat common security challenges and threats, including transborder crime and terrorism. It is encouraging that over the recent years, we have succeeded in making significant progress in bilateral trade. We are willing to work together on further engagement of our countries and peoples, strengthening mutually beneficial relations in politics, security, economy, education, in cultural and humanitarian fields, as well as in other areas. Pakistan, Russia, Dosti, Zindabad.
Right, Pakistan, Russia, Dosti Zindabad, that's what Russian Foreign Minister was saying. And when we talk about Pakistan's relations with Russia, of course, we have seen a significant transformation that both countries have undergone in the recent years. And we will be talking about the potential areas of cooperation and existing areas of cooperation, as well as the challenges in today's program. And we also know that just yesterday, Pakistan received 45,000 metric tons of discounted Russian crude oil as well, and we will be talking about this recent development, this deal as well. What does it mean for Pakistan and for Russia as well? To discuss this and more, we are joined in the studios by Mr. Sheharyar, who is IR expert. Welcome to the program. We are also joined by Mr. Hannan Hussain. Welcome to the program. And we are also joined online by Dr. Javed, who is economist and international affairs expert. Welcome to the program. So, Mr. Sheharyar, let me start with you. When we talk about Pakistan's relations with Russia, of course, we know that our relations have undergone from the times when there was Cold War rivalries and ups and downs have remained there. But now we see a significant shift in the policies of both countries. And there is, and this recent deal, and under which we have received this Russian discounted crude oil. How significant is this development when we talk about bilateral relations between the two countries?
Maryam, this whole shift, it's a geopolitical shift with Pakistan going for renewed sources of crude oil. Traditionally, we have been getting our crude oil mainly from Arabian sources. And now this is the first time Pakistan is experimenting with Russian crude. So it has like two main significance that I want to talk about. First, there was like initially, if you remember, there was this talk. There are a lot of like analysts. This whole discussion probably started like around 2 years ago.
Of course.
And at that time, a lot of analysts were basically saying that the Pakistani refineries don't even have the capacity to process Russian crude. So that misgiving or that misapprehension has been resolved, and Pakistani refineries are capable of refining the Russian crude. Now, like some analysts are also saying that once this oil is processed, what will be the composition of the oil that is like developed? A lot of analysts are saying 50% of it will be furnace oil, 35% will be like high-speed diesel, and like the rest will be like other products. And if we compare that with the Arabian crude, so Arabian crude kind of like makes 50% diesel and like around 25% furnace oil. But like this is yet to be seen. This shipment has arrived on Sunday. Yesterday, it will probably be going into the refineries today, and then we'll like analyze and like see what the composition actually comes out to be. And this, once it's like blended with the Arabian crude, this has a potential of significantly bringing down the cost of oil that Pakistan
Of course, and this is significant for Pakistani economy as well. But how does it fit into Russia's broader energy cooperation in the region?
So as the world is now moving towards multipolarity, and with the whole Russian war with Ukraine, Russia is now looking eastwards. So when it comes to Russia's focus now, it's like mainly focusing more on SCO. It's like focusing on China. It basically states China is Russia's top partner. India is like Russia's second partner. The shift is moving towards Central Asia, to China, to Southeast Asia, and Pakistan has a pivotal role to play when it comes to Russian like influence in this region. So this is a move when it comes to Russia and like finding new markets for its oil and gas exports. We also have to remember that there is another project that Pakistan signed in 2015, which is called the Pakistan Stream Gas Pipeline project as well. So that is also in line with Russia trying to find new markets for its oil and like getting the reserves that it needs and exporting its resources to eastwards.
Of course. Mr. Hannan, how do you see this important development in terms of energy cooperation between the two countries? Is there potential for expanding this into more areas of cooperation?
I think there absolutely is. We've heard it from their official representatives as well, that there's a desire to expand the ambit of Russia and Pakistan's current phase of cooperation. I think this is significant because on three levels. First of all, this is hard proof that Russia prioritizes Pakistan's energy needs as well and is willing to position itself as a dependable supplier. It helps to recall that we had several rounds of negotiations that went into it. Full credit to the current government for delivering on its promise, and hence those negotiations are starting to yield fruit. From Pakistan's point of view, you have to understand that we would want to use this 45,000 metric tons as a test case to see how far Pakistan can go about with its current capacities. And Russia does have, for example, the extraction capacities. It does have the technical expertise to also help Pakistan develop in the long run. Now, when you look at it from a regional perspective, it's a fact that this particular deal was negotiated in Chinese yuan, again signifying a very dependable triangle between China, Russia, and Pakistan to advance energy cooperation regardless of political overtones. And I think that in itself is quite a tribute to this relationship that has endured over the years.
Of course, but are there some challenges that could be arisen as a result of this deal when we talk about specifically from the point of view of geopolitical perspective?
Yeah, obviously, because there are certain countries in the world which would not exactly be so moved by an arrangement that caters to Russia and Pakistan's interests. We've seen, some degree of skepticism from the United States in the past, but with this deal, this kind of sends a signal that Pakistan and Russia's primary duty is to their consumers, it's to their relationship, it's to what works as mutual interest between them. And to that end, I think I would trust Pakistan and Russia to distinguish their relationship from geopolitical overtones and endure in the long run.
Of course. Dr. Hasnain, how do you see this significant development, and how does the import of Russian crude oil impact Pakistan's overall energy mix?
Well, this is one of the magnanimous, start, but this, I would say this is a shift How much we will be persistent to this shift, but this I would say this is the shift. But the good thing is that Russia has offered the Pakistan to receive the payments in a three currencies. One is the UAE dirham, then is the Chinese yuan, and then is the Russian ruble. So how the two countries have agreed to make the payments in Russian currency, most probably they will do according to my resources, we will do in ruble. So as we are out of dollar, so that is a very good move by the Russia. So we will do in ruble. So Russian currency for the oil shipment from the Russia is way too good. And second important thing is the dollar-based LCs are not workable in Pakistan. So now Pakistan opened the letter of credit LCs in the Bank of China to make payments due to shortage of the dollar in the country and row between the US and Russia over Ukraine issue. So now this is very much important, but I just wanted to tell you that this is not significant. Still, our refineries are, as Sheharyar, pointing out this issue. This is still the issue. This is raised by Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, and still we are working on upgradation of the refineries. And
what
how
kind
can
of
we
infrastructure would be needed for that when we talk about, of course, capacity of Pakistani refineries to refine the crude oil that we are importing from Russia?
See, these are the four types. Mainly, it is used for the industrialization. So, if the industrialization and the domestic capacity, and we give the subsidies to the industries, initially for that reason to complete the structure within few time, then it could be perhaps the help. If not, then much of the crude oil convert into the industrial usage. That could be a bit difficult in that area. But I hope of course we are calling up that issue. It is just a matter of the hope. So according to the reports, of course, the Arabian oil produce only 45% of the high diesel, and then 25% of the furnace oil, where the Russia crude oil is started to produce 32% of HSD and the 50% of the furnace oil. So you can get the idea where if we just convert this oil, which is about the 100,000 metric ton, and the shipment from Oman, because Oman to Karachi is about carrying 50%. You just telling me that it's a 45%. According to me, it's a 50%. Well, in a two ship way. So the two ships are coming. So 50,000 metric ton oil is selling to Karachi, and it's sailed now.
45,000.
So
right.
So 45,000. So the important thing is very much important thing is China also get nearly 800,000 barrel per day. 800,000 barrel per day. So we are just starting with it. So I am very much hopeful that this shift towards Russia for the LNG, for the power sector, for the oil, for the other thing. And yes, it is just not about the gas pipeline. We must have to take this idea from the China, as they are importing and sailing from the same tunnel, and it passed through from the tunnel, and how they get the oil from the tunnel. So that could be the great idea. But this discount is favorably excellent as compared if we did this in 6 months before. That could be more discounted, but it's not too late. So we are on the track and we are on the right side.
Of course, we are on the track and we are on the right side, but talking about the payments of this discounted crude oil is very important. How do you see this shift in moving towards the non-US dollar payment? How significant is it for Pakistan's reserves as well as for Pakistan's economy?
So, Maryam, our Minister for Petroleum, Dr. Musaddiq Malik, yesterday announced that the payment for this Russian crude was made in yuans. So that has like a lot of significant implications when it comes to the international financial systems. As we know and we talk about it in every program, that Pakistan's import bill is very large, and we are facing severe economic crisis because of our dollar payments that have to be done. So Pakistan's daily usage is like around 154 to 155,000 barrels per day, and this comes to around $13 to $14 billion a year. This is our import bill that we have to pay in USD. This is for the first time we are like making these payments in yuan. Russia has been ousted from the SWIFT payment system after the war was started in Ukraine. So this is like one of the way Pakistan is like paying for this, crude oil and alternative
how does this new payment arrangement is going to impact the bilateral relations between the two countries? Because when we talk about Russia, Russia is also looking towards diversifying its markets. So how do you see this overall shift in the dynamics?
So Maryam, this has to be seen from the overall geopolitical shift that you just like mentioned. And this has to be also analyzed in the backdrop of the rising Russia and China cooperation when it comes to, ever since the war in Ukraine started. Russia is now more dependent on China and India as well for its exports into this region. And now Russia, for the first time in its history, in the last like 3 months, the yuan has basically surpassed the USD in terms of import transactions that Russian central bank is like doing. Now Russia is increasing its yuan reserves, and most of the payments that are being done for all the oil and gas that China is importing from Russia is being done in yuan. India is also following suit, by the way. So they are also transacting with Russia and rubles as well. So they're also not using USD right now. Now, will that have
So we are witnessing new financial systems emerging as well when we talk about.
So when it comes to the global SWIFT system, so initially SWIFT system is dominated by the USD, and so USD forms at around 39% of the payments in the SWIFT system is done in USD. Around 35% of the payments are done in euros and European currency. And yuan traditionally had like around 2.5%. It's not like a lot. But this whole transaction that is like being done by Russia and China, this could have a snowball effect. And in the coming years, this could increase. China has its own payment system. It's called CIPS. And this payment system is, again, in China for the first time, yuan surpassed the USD again, because China is doing a lot of business with Russia. So when it comes to Brazil, Brazil now is also moving away from the USD. So this technically is a geopolitical shift which kind of like donates that a lot of like developing countries or countries that are economically
dependent on the US
and economically
dollars,
growing.
Of course.
They did not really like the weaponization of the USD that was basically done, and a lot of like developing countries basically see that the Western powers basically use the dominance of the USD to basically bring other countries in line. So a lot of countries are now shifting away from the USD.
Of course.
And a lot of like elite businessmen in these countries, when they basically saw that a lot of like Russian businessmen and citizens were penalized because of the war between Russia and Ukraine, a lot of them also basically saw that we could be next. And their private assets, Russia's private assets, which amount to around $300 billion, were frozen by Western banks as well. So a lot of like countries like Brazil, China, they're like noticing this and they want to like move away from the USD and come up with the new payment system.
Right. So there are a number of developments when we talk about the energy cooperation and also the emerging alliances in the region and on international arena as well. We are talking about the energy cooperation between Pakistan and Russia. We will be taking we are talking about Pakistan's relations with Russia. Mr. Hannan, when we talk about Pakistan's relations with Russia, of course, in the light of recent developments, we see that there are sanctions that are and price capping on Russian oil as well. So how do you see this recent deal between Pakistan and Russia is going to impact both countries economically as well as politically?
So I think when you talk about price capping, it's important to note that that particular measure did not have a lot of traction or popularity with countries beyond the West. We did see India make a similar move. Pakistan hasn't been up for these, these measures that tend to resonate with certain blocks and not others. So I think from that perspective, this deal going forward sets a positive example for emerging economies, developing economies to develop independent linkages with Russia based on common interests, because Russia is a strong supplier, was a strong enough supplier to Europe that has led to then frictions being created in the back of Russia's track record of supplying. That coming through to Pakistan based on long-term incentives could then set a positive tone for countries around, again, benefiting Russia in the process. It's important to note when we talk about, for example, the traditional role which Arab economies have played in supplying oil. Russia obviously has had greater proximity and closeness to the OPEC alliance, which allows Pakistan to have greater, I'd say, support and less diplomatic challenges when it has to navigate between the Arab world and Russia. And that would benefit Russia because Russia in itself, under sanctions, has proven that the economic dependencies and its energy supplies would have far-reaching positive implications for countries, and that in itself is a recipe to bring countries closer together, including Russia and Pakistan, as opposed to diversion.
Of course. Dr. Hussain, when we talk about these recent developments, how do you see, what are the factors that prompted Russia to diversify its market and look towards Pakistan? Of course, Pakistan also has its own energy needs and Pakistan needs to diversify its own suppliers of oil as well. So how do you see this dynamic?
See, Russia and China from the day first, they never open their plan, but their plan is very much clear. Their plan is about the collaboration and collaboration and collaboration. They wanted to see this Asia, a powerful Asia, because we are the resourceful nation. We are all of the belt is completely resourceful. But I just wanted to, dig about the understanding the power constituent, because it is the change of the constituent. It's just not about the oil and gas purchase. It is just not about the China as a flagship program. It is just not about the relationship with the China and that on the basis of the bilateral or trilateral development. We must fully try to comprehend the US-China trade war that has been ongoing from some time and will continue to dedicate many important global events. From chip war to car manufacturing to strengthening the ties in the Asia Pacific, both the US and China have been trying to outperform or outlast the other. So Pakistan previously and historically has always maintained the cordial relationship with both, which is perhaps our current foreign policy as well. However, in this balance act, we always sacrifice our national interest. So this is the point where we are dealing with the oil and the gas, which means we are now seeing our national interest. That means, let's just take the example of the India. India is
of course, and
member of Quads.
I'm just when we talk about
this, let me complete this Quads issue, because when we're talking about the Quads, it's US, Japan, Australia, and India partnership. An important partnership in I2U2 is Israel, India, UK, and USA. So despite of this, in the matter of the Russian-Ukraine war, we clearly saw India putting its national interest first, and it's continued, in fact, increase its oil import from Russia. So why not we? So we have to do that. We have to work hard on that. So I'm not denying.
Of course, and we are doing that. Dr. Hussain, talking about which, of course, how do you see this recent development and what sectors are going to be significantly impacted when we talk about the economic relations between Pakistan and Russia? And do you see a surge in the trade volume?
Yes, of course. First, we have to have the persistently, consistently, and resilient a nation. We have to have continued this policy for another many years, because we cannot switch from now and on for the other day. Because we need to understand that, as I'm not denying the fact that we are really heavily on aid by the international lending bodies. First, try to understand that we are completely on the lending agencies, lending bodies such as IMF and the World Bank that are the US driven, but we cannot also deny the reality that due to CPEC, our economic interests are retweeted with the China. So therefore, there is another wave of predicament like this. there cannot be absolute win-win for the Pakistan, but there has to be some sort of strategic foreign policy based on the national interest in place. So the trades, there could be the trade sanctions. I'm just telling you, there could be the trade sanctions, some of the hurdles, some of the problems. But let me tell you, if we will be continuously persistent, consistent, and resilient, we will take this off, and our industry would be flourish. Our domestic industry would be flourish. Our CPEC would be flourish. Our relationship with the Central Asian states, Russia and China, will be flourish in many areas, such as 9 economic zone, where the plastic, where the cement, where the construction, where the chemical, you just name it, every industry will be flourished if we will be continuously fixed with this ideology. Despite of the fact, I'm telling you, this is not the win-win situation for Pakistan. Under this heavy lending, we are undergone with the heavy lending from the IMF and the World Bank. We have to look at this point, but it is not that we just we were at the right side for the 200 years and then we can move from here just in a second and a flip of a finger, just blink of an eye. We cannot do that. But
and what could be the challenges when we talk about this cooperation between the two countries, like you earlier mentioned? Are these from the geopolitical perspective that we are talking about?
It is. Yes, geopolitical, very much geopolitical. I can make the proportion if it is like 80% of the geopolitical and the same of the ratio between the internal. As I'm telling you that, for example, if we are, the current situation continue the refinery space issue, the low demand of the furnace oil. So it will be force us to export. Hence, their profit may turn into negative. So there would be so much complexities as I know about the refineries and their other issues, but these are the managerial issues. So as if we take up the governance issues, the governance managerial issue will be on the right side. Believe in me, this shift will be, positively give us the heavy back, and we will be on the track in a few years. But it is not just about the flip of a finger, blink of an eye. We must have to be resilient. We have to be resilient.
Of course, we have to be. Of course, we have to be resilient, Mr. Sheharyar. When we talk about Pakistan's relations with Russia, of course, we know that recently we celebrated 75 years of the establishment of diplomatic relations. How do you see? What are some of the potential areas where both countries can explore new avenues of cooperation beyond this crude oil import?
So, Maryam, one of the areas where Russia is like expanding, as we basically discussed earlier, is like eastwards. So there's a very famous Trans-Siberian railway that basically goes from Beijing to St. Petersburg in Russia. So Russia is in the process of increasing the capacity of this railway and expanding this railway as well, because it wants to basically build deeper linkages eastwards. It's also looking at the north-south corridors as well. In that corridor, Iran plays a very important role. And we see that Iran also has like huge reserves. I always like find it very unfortunate that Pakistan has always been a victim of geopolitical contestation of superpowers.
And Cold War
era as well. And I don't basically say that Pakistan wasn't part of it. But now when it comes to economic hardships, the common man of Pakistan is like now paying the price, and it's like feeling the heat of the economic turbulence that Pakistan is going through. We have a country on the west, Iran, which has one of the largest like oil and gas reserves. We are not able to basically, use those reserves because of international sanctions. Russia, again, historically we have always been dependent on the Arabian sources, GCC countries for our oil imports. We never even like explored, Russian crude. So this is the first time we are like venturing into that territory.
And how do you see that Pakistan balancing its foreign policy of maintaining good ties with US as well as with Russia? How do you see this balance?
So Pakistan's ties with US and especially the European Union are also very important. We have to like keep in mind that sometimes geopolitics takes over economic compulsions as well. So when it comes to geopolitical and like economic interests, US is one of the largest export markets of Pakistan. European Union basically gives Pakistan the GSP plus status. So Pakistan now, since the last quite a few years, hasn't really been being a part of any bloc politics, and that is what like suits Pakistan's economy as well.
Of course,
we don't have a large enough economy that we start taking sides in like international geopolitical contestation. Now we have to like look inwards and see how we basically get out of this economic quagmire that Pakistan is going through, and in that. Building ties with like emerging superpowers like China, Russia,
and diversifying
its
policy.
Yeah. Exactly. That is like goes in our interest. So we'll have to basically now see that to basically get out of this economic crisis that Pakistan is going through is building better ties with the Central Asian states, Russia, China. Is that like in the interest of Pakistan, or being part of like international bloc politics? Will that like serve Pakistan's purpose? I think like we have to move more towards politics of cooperation and move more towards geo-economic cooperation.
Of course, and that's what we keep on emphasizing in our program as well. We will be talking more about Pakistan's emerging relations with Russia after a short break. About Pakistan's relations with Russia. Mr. Hannan, when we talk about these emerging ties between Pakistan and Russia, how do you see, what are some of the key sectors in which there is need for both countries to cooperate further, and are there some potential avenues in which both countries are already cooperating beyond this oil deal?
Yeah, there are plenty. First of all, when you look at the trade turnover, so I think the growth in itself tells us a lot about it. During the 1990s, we had about 90 million was the complete trade turnover. Today, it's $500 million. So even though that transition can be built upon, it tells you a lot about the thinking that has gone into the past. When we talk about future avenues, it has to be focused on a range of areas, including which is regional infrastructure. So I mean, the Russian ambassador to Pakistan had pointed out that that's an area where Russia would really think and is confident that they can advance things forward. And I think what lends optimism to that is the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor's own contribution to regional infrastructure in Pakistan.
Of course.
There are no limits to what countries can contribute, and the fact that Russia and China are leading a no-limits partnership economically and militarily kind of heightens the prospect of things going forward. The very fact that we had Chinese currency playing a pivotal role in this oil transaction tells you a lot about what countries can accomplish together. So, regional infrastructure. Secondly, I think one of the areas that can be built upon is the fact that you would want stronger military and technical cooperation. So we look back to 2018 when the military representatives from both sides, from Pakistan and Russia, were able to strike a groundbreaking contract for the technical training of military troops in Pakistan. That can be built upon because Russia's prowess and its vigilance regionally is something that Pakistan and China both are aware of. You don't have to look far. You can look to, for example, their joint contributions on Afghanistan and the Samarkand talks earlier in April. Both countries are well accustomed with the kind of threats that can emanate, and the fact that Pakistan is kind of keeping a very vigilant eye, a very decisive eye for these threats, tells you that military technical cooperation along with regional infrastructure is the way to go.
Of course. Dr. Hussain, when we talk about economic ties between the two countries, of course, we see there is a lot of potential between Pakistan and Russia. How do you see that? What are some of the trade barriers, or what are the challenges that would be needed to address when we talk about these ties?
First of all, when it goes to, when we move and shift from one way to another, of course, we have to have so many complexities. First, we have to have the licensing. Then we have to have significant approach to the import and export division. We must have to have the subgroup trade promote development in two-way trades. Then we have to establish the subgroup on the trade. And then we must have to, create the Russian-Pakistan Joint Commission, and so that we can hamper the trade policy development in the both ways. It is just not about the, it is about the cost, it is about the regulation, it is about the infrastructure, so that bottlenecks can be comprehensively under the control. And the determinant factor on the trade and growth, Pakistan trade regime and regulatory environment still remain comparatively restrictive. So we must have to
And are there
find
some
out the
discussions
ways.
underway to address these challenges?
Yes, this is why I'm telling you that on the internal part, on our part, the LPG or the crude oil which came, recently. I welcome this just because, not just because of we will get the high profit out of it, but it is the start of the new era. It's a new world order. It's a new business. It's a new world order for the economy. So that so many, business trade ordinances will take place, and you will see that there will be remarkable, input from the Russia, China, and the Central Asian states.
And talking about this remarkable input that you are referring to, what are some of the investment opportunities or the initiatives that you see a lot of potential in?
After the trade, after the infrastructure, trade, and the energy. So the most important thing is energy. When we comprehend this issue, energy and LPG, our industry will groom, and then the cost infrastructure, or the you can say that the supply chain in the under the way between the both countries, you will see the textile, clothing, you just name it, the commodities, the rice, which is very much dire need of in that area, and then particularly the China, its volume of the population is much needed. So our gate to the trade will open in a very different way. So the profit will be seen in a better way. But same as I told you earlier, in a trade also we need a sustainable economic development guarantees under the GSP plus trade preferentials and preferential trade agreements and the duties. We have to discuss on the tariff and trades system. So we who have to have the complete free trade agreements between the all. We are not using the word block, but well, somehow
Emerging
you are saying this.
alliances.
Emerging alliances, but do you think some superpower thinks that we are the a small economy and we are not part of any bloc? Well, if you think that, I would say you are wishing well.
Mr. Sheharyar, when we talk about, of course, economic ties, connectivity is also very important. Regional infrastructure is very important. How do you see the current state of infrastructure development between the two countries, specifically when we talk about it in the context of BRI?
So currently there is no such infrastructure projects that are being discussed between Pakistan and Russia, other than the Pakistan Stream gas pipeline, which basically was signed between Russia and Pakistan in 2015. And because
but there is no progress on that project
because of international sanctions. So currently now Pakistan renegotiated this project. Other than the international sanctions, there was also a matter of the availability of funds. So that gas pipeline is like around 1100 kilometers long, starting from Karachi and like going all on till like Kasur in Punjab. So now Pakistan is renegotiating this with Russia, and now the current status quo is that Pakistan will own around 75% of the gas pipeline, and Russia will probably own the remaining portion.
Right.
And this is giving Pakistan the ownership of the project, and then it bypasses the international sanctions that are placed on Russian firms. So this will be done on build, operate, and transfer basis with Russia. So that's like one of the projects that is being discussed.
Of course, and when we talk about infrastructure projects, do you see any potential for public-private sectors to come in?
There's a lot of potential between Russian firms and Pakistani firms that can, build into like something in the future. I personally think that Russia has like a lot of expertise when it comes to military technology. Russia has a lot of expertise when it comes to cybersecurity. Other than that, peaceful nuclear technology, that can also, there can be a lot of cooperation in those areas. So these are the areas that are being discussed. Joint military exercises, trainings, capacity building, that is already being undertaken.
That is very important, Hannan, when we talk about these developments. How do you see the potential for deepening the defense ties between the two countries?
I think first of all, a starting point would be to kind of also step up joint exercises, but make them strategic. So I'd point to evidence, for example, China and Russia have been doing that really frequently now, and that has also assumed greater priority in their bilateral
Of course,
interactions.
because there is potential and there is need for cooperation in defense ties as well, because we see a convergence of views regarding the Afghanistan situation in the region.
Maryam, just to build on that, I think when you talk about these particular joint exercises, they carry specific objectives to kind of, for example, deepen interoperability between troops and forces, contingency measures, emergency response options. So Pakistan, there's a climate dimension to this as well. And the fact that militaries in both Pakistan and Russia are very dependable fixtures when it comes to defending security interests heightens the prospect for that even more.
And what do you see some are the potential areas of convergence and divergence between the two countries?
So if we narrow it down, I think for convergence, both countries I think would be more forthcoming when it comes to forming joint technical committees to see which particular areas, sectors are responsive. What are Pakistan's needs? What are Russia's expectations? Help manage them and then hammer out those sectors. I'll point to evidence from the Middle East. Iraq announced a $17 billion project with China's stakes in it. How did they court the Gulf? They basically decided to set up legal, financial, and technical exchanges, and those joint committees are then going to inform global bilateral interactions. I think a very important point is the fact that even if you look at the oil front, this was the first government-to-government interaction leading into the oil field. So that tells you that G2G interactions can also have a trickle-down effect on businesses and entrepreneurs.
On B2B as well. Dr. Hussain, when we talk about the evolving geopolitical and global developments, how do you see the future prospects of Pakistan's relations with Russia?
See, I mean, a very valid question. I just wanted to, shed some light on it. As despite of this matter in the Russian-Ukraine war, we clearly saw India putting its national interest first and continue to increase its oil import from Russia. So same as the case, we have to do that. And there have been a study conducted that measure the impact of the change in export to the US from China. So China, India, and Bangladesh, and the Pakistan. The empirical result indicate that due to the imposition of the US tariff, China's export to US reduced by 39%, whereas the Pakistan export to US lowered by the 3%. So India and the Bangladesh, on the other hand, gains from the trade war, within the India's export increased by 39% and Bangladesh's export increased by 15%. Why not Pakistan can get the same result as we are getting the furnace oil? So we can groom our industry, and then from textile to everything, from commodity to wheat to everything, we can go into other word. But the important thing is, I just wanted to quote a little while that I agreed with the gist, the message delivered by the Honorable Minister of the State somewhere in the global session. I think the word order would be very different from the Miss Kerr has hoped for. She has rightly pointed out the global constitution, but this competition on the war of the global war coming from the year and is unavoidable now. I have been very clear in my publication. I recently published 2 articles on that, and appears that now is the time to Pakistan must be very clear stand on the global and strategic issues, even if that means that taking a clear side and picking a winners. We cannot, as India do, as Bangladesh do, why not we? So in that way, please, both Chinese and US at the same time, especially when time and again, China has continued to support US turmoil, has one of the biggest infrastructure project, and it's aligned with our sensitive security requirement as a regional dynamics involved. So the new order, or what we call a new world order, after the pandemic, I called it a new world order. So that's mean. So Pakistan also means gaining economic independence and strength. We cannot continue to simply rely on our geographical placement in the region. We must complement it with the exceptional internal relations driven by the strategic foreign relations and diversified bilateral trade agreements and strong sense of domestic stability.
Of course, and there's a lot of potential. Thank you very much, Dr. Hussain Javed, for joining us in today's program. Thank you very much, Mr. Sheharyar Khan, expert international affairs, for joining us in today's program. Thank you very much, Mr. Hannan Hussain, expert international affairs, for joining us in today's program. Of course, in today's program, we discussed about Pakistan's relations with Russia, and we know that throughout the program, we discussed about the recent import of crude oil from Russia. And this is an important development when we look towards the emerging ties between Pakistan and Russia. They have come a long way. There are still a number of challenges when we talk about geopolitical perspective as well. But with understanding and cooperation, there is a lot that both countries can accomplish. That's all from Game Changer tonight.